Okay. Okay, how about we talk first about this Aquay scene, the scene that we just watched. Okay. There's so many things that we could say about this. Stacy, what did your group? Did you say anything about the Aquay scene or what it means?
Well, it kind of shows the unity with his people, the way they followed Timber's heart and saved him.
Okay, maybe I should write it here. The solidarity between the indigenous. Okay. Let's see what else. David, what about in your group? Do you have any ideas about the Hathaway scene?
We felt that Daniel, due to his companions, other extras in the films, the way their reaction to the police taking them away, compared to the way the Costa and his crew didn't really do as much. I feel like we felt they respected him as a leader, Daniel, like his companion.
Oh, okay, interesting. So the indigenous, his community, they have more respect for Daniel.
Then Costa, and we felt Costa and his film crew only just saw Daniel as an element to the film, which they needed to finish the film.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Because, why do they even want to get Daniel out of jail? Just so they can continue with their film and, pay the money to continue with their film. So for them, Daniel is really something that they buy. Whereas his community, his life is valuable, his freedom is valuable. Okay, beyond money. They're willing to risk their lives to save him. Okay, so yeah, that would go back to the solidarity. And perhaps it also shows what we talked about last week, about the difference in values. Okay, values either, so to say, quantitative, like money, or qualitative, which is usually like a quality that can't be bought, something more humanitarian or humane. Something like love. You can't really put a numerical figure on love. Okay, what else in that scene? 1 second, let me make sure. I think the battery was going bad. No, it's still okay. Okay, Allison?
We picked up on the fact that, like, whenever the scene first comes on, like, they're filming the meta film and it's all the natives and they're being burned on the crosses, but they're, like, kind of protesting being burned. You know what I mean? And then the police come in and arrest Daniel, like, him being a native to that land, to Cochabamba, and they're like kind of saying like, you don't have a right, you're coming with us, and then everyone like kind of protests that. So like kind of the parallel.
Right. So here we have the case of, okay, we have the meta film, which is a historical film from 500 years ago, and they're protesting the repressive treatment of the Spaniards. Okay? And then, right like that, in just a second, there's a cut. They finish the scene, and it's like a time flash. Immediately, we go back into the present, the year 2000. 15th century, 2000, like that. And we have the same exact story. It's like they're seen together. They're protesting repressive treatment, this time of the Bolivian authority. Okay? This scene makes it really obvious of this. Do you recall what we called this about 2 weeks ago. There's a special term for this. The syllables would be HC. Something that is,
Great reference, high culture. What is it?
good one, but no.
That was like, boom, I'm so.
Something that continues from the past.
Historical continuity.
Historical continuity. Okay? This is probably the most perfect example in the film, the most obvious example of historical continuity. Okay? Because it's like the same exact picture that side by side with a difference of 500 years. Okay? So, I don't know, historical continuity and juxtaposition. What does juxtaposition mean? Juxtaposition, this is a really good word for studying culture. For example, if I take this computer and I put it alongside my head and I juxtapose the computer with my head. Juxtapose means to put two seemingly different things alongside one another. They do this a lot in art. And in fact, next week we're going to be talking about surrealism. This was a big technique in surrealism, like Salvador Dali. They would make really strange juxtapositions. So if I make a juxtaposition with the computer in my head, so this is an artistic technique, what would be the purpose of that? What would be the purpose of putting this computer alongside my head, or 500 years ago alongside the present? You're David, right? Brian.
You're trying to show how like similar or different something is.
Mm-hmm. It highlights the similarities and differences. Okay, so if I put this computer next to my head, someone might think, that's absurd. But actually it could mean something. What could it mean? Anthony?
Process of thought equating to.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Process of thought, you can equate that to the inner workings of the computer.
Good. Yeah, it could mean that, or it could mean that us today, us humans are hardly like humans anymore. We're more like robotic computers or something. Okay. So anyway, the hot play scene, historical continuity, juxtaposition between past and present to highlight similarities and differences. Okay? And basically to make us think, but because if you juxtapose something that's quite odd, like a computer in a person's head, or a shoe in a person's head, or I don't know, maybe a heart and a cell phone. Okay? These are strange combinations that make us think. Okay? So that's why the surrealist and many artists, for example, the most famous case, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Let me show you real quick. In preparation for next week's presentation on surrealism. This is the most famous juxtaposition ever. From France, I think it was the 1960s. Marcel Duchamp, who was a French artist, he took a toilet seat and he took it to the museum and he put it on the museum wall. Museum wall with a toilet seat. What was the big question, do you think, here? I mean, nowadays we probably wouldn't think much of it, but think of maybe 50 years ago when our culture was a bit more conservative and traditional. What question is he trying to poke at here by taking a toilet and putting it on the wall of a museum?
I don't know if this is right, what you're looking for, but in my personal opinion, I feel like that's like, it's a urinal, correct? So it's like him stating that like, our culture's like pissing on art or like history or something.
Okay. Sure, that could be one interpretation of it. Allison?
see that, like, what, like, art is subjective, like, why is this not art, but this portrait beside it is?
Right, okay? So everybody's saying that Monet or Van Gogh or Salvador Dali, that's art. That's art. But if I do this, that's not art. Okay? So the 1960s, especially coming out of Europe and a bit out of New York City, they were questioning what the heck is art? Why is Monet art but not my shirt? Okay? So anyway, this is a prime example of juxtaposition. Okay. Now, a couple more things about this Hathaway scene. In my other class, one of the groups mentioned that the death of Hathaway, okay, he's like a heroic figure. It's similar to another historic death. Did anybody catch on that? Stacy? Or did you not?
No.
Marie?
Like biblical?
Uh-huh.
Jesus, I guess.
Uh-huh. The biblical story of Jesus Christ, okay? He also died on a cross. He was also standing up for a large group of people with whom he was, there was a lot of solidarity with that group of people. He was trying to defend a certain ideology of justice and love, okay? So there's also an interpretation of this Hathaway scene that here we have another historic figure, about over 1,000 years later, we have this guy Hathaway, 1,000 years after Jesus Christ, we have this guy Hathaway who ends up in a very similar situation, okay? So this analogy between Jesus and Hathaway, okay? Now there's a contradiction about this. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick.
Desprecio a vuestro Dios, desprecio vuestra condición.